It's my pleasure to introduce Paul from Havuta. Paul is based in Seoul, and Fabian is based in Geneva in Switzerland. And Havuta, I think, is incorporated in Swiss. So it is a app that brings reliable data to non-governmental organizations, the NGOs. And Havuta makes it easier for NGOs to collect and track post-program impact data. Welcome, Paul, and we are very excited to hear about Havuta. Tell us more about it.
Yeah, well, I think Fabienne and I got a little bit sick of crypto philanthropy. You know what I mean? The charity stars stuff and the packs full building schools in Africa and CZ setting up the Blockchain Charity Foundation, and decided to actually bring the benefits of blockchain technology to the development sector in a far more meaningful way than donating money, because I think that's, the mindset becomes about to anybody who isn't all that familiar with blockchain technology. Blockchain is cryptocurrency, and it's not that we wanted to necessarily change all that, but we decided we saw a way to bring non-crypto related blockchain applications to a sector that was only seeing it as a way to accept donations. So we developed Havuta. I have no idea how to share this screen that I've. Yeah, no, I don't know. Is there a way to
Yes,
share screen?
If you bring your cursor on
yeah. All right. Here we go. But it's got to be a particular window, right?
Yes, you just have to change your tab. There should be something called share screen.
Try this. How am I looking?
Oh, there we are. Yes.
Can you see it?
Yes, absolutely.
Can you all see it?
Yes, I can see.
Right on. So this is using blockchain technology to help prove and improve local impact. So the fundamental issue in the development sector is that there is a data deficit, and that data deficit has been known for a very long time, and if nothing else is growing. So Havuta primarily is involved in impact data. So if I could just sort of walk people through the process, which is that an NGO or an impact fund, any development actor, this happens increasingly in private-public partnerships as well. Anyone who's received funds from donors and is implementing a project that is designed to improve the lives of the beneficiaries they're serving, and this is often, obviously largely happening in the developing world. Anyone who receives that donor money are going to be measuring their impact. They call it monitoring and evaluation, and they'll spend typically from 5 to about 10% of their budget on measuring the impact that they set out to achieve against reality. So did we have the impact that we wanted to have? And they need to show that impact to their donors because that's about future funding for them. And there's a data deficit because impact collection tools are becoming they're expensive and they're becoming old-fashioned, shall we say. So what we saw as a problem, blockchain provides a solution. And what we've developed is the only beneficiary-facing data collection app in the sector. Collecting data in the development sector, just by the nature of the sector and in the way they were doing it, was, as you can see here on this thing, pretty expensive, quite time-consuming, quite limited, and very short term. So Havuta actually addresses every single one of these things, but I'll just focus on two. The limited nature of the data that NGOs, etc., were able to gather. They were relying on sample sizes of 5-10%. And there are statisticians that do mathematicians and saying, given the budgetary constraints within a certain degree of certainty, there's a level of representativeness we can get out of whatever sample of the situation. Sampling is a thing, but more data is better than less. Havuta allows people to access, a theoretical 100% response from their beneficiaries, rather than anyone having to limit themselves to small sample sizes. And when it came to short term, and this I think was the original conception for Havuta's use, and that came from Fabienne's experience, was that typical M&E was collected. So, you can imagine an NGO will go to a community and implement a program, and it might last 3 months, it might last a week if it's some short-term training and hygiene or whatever. And they will do, at the front of it, they will take a sample of that community and they'll give them a questionnaire to get it kind of baseline at the front. And then just before they leave, they'll give out another questionnaire to see if what they did had an impact. Now, the ILO has pointed out, the ILO points this out in almost every study they release, that people are far more likely to remember what they were taught yesterday, a lot less likely to remember what they were taught 3 months ago. And it's typical, and if an NGO is intending to deliver long-term impact, wouldn't it make sense that they were getting long-term data so that they could inform both themselves and their donors if the solutions they were creating were in fact long-term in nature? With our app, they're able to do it. To get long-term data at the moment is incredibly difficult and incredibly cost prohibitive, especially if you've lost track of your beneficiaries, which is normally the case. So Havuta gives them a far longer reach into the future, years, as long as people keep the app. So we asked ourselves a few questions. We got a few big name quotes. The ILO, again, the real challenge is for interventions to produce lasting long-term results. And that's back in 2011. So the Havuta product, what if long-term M&E became more affordable and more accessible? What we do is bring more data to NGOs at a far cheaper price, to give them a much broader picture and a longer term picture with a larger sample of whether their efforts are fruitful. What they can do with that data, apart from reporting to their donors, is obviously improve on the ground. If results show that their ambitions weren't met, they know how to adjust, so they know what they have to adjust. Another question, and this is from Bill Gates. By enhancing data, research, and the collective knowledge of their local community, schools have an opportunity to help students succeed. And Havuta has taken the spirit of beneficiary-driven data, which is very much a Gates Foundation ideology. They're quite dogmatic. They're very serious about this. And that's something that's been largely overlooked, that surely beneficiaries of these programs need to have a voice. And in fact, their voices are probably more valuable than those of anybody else. So a flown-in team of external researchers to do an impact study and see how it worked is maybe actually not the way to go. Maybe we need to stay connected with the communities that we're serving, and let's hear from them. This is about social proofing and empowering those that the sector is intended to serve to actually get the programs that they actually need. Because oftentimes people on the ground are better informed than people give them credit for. And we asked then the question in response to that: what if you could better engage your local communities to improve your development efforts? So we have a unique incentive mechanism, which uses our internal tokens, which are called HIE, HIEs, Havuta Impact Evaluation Tokens, which in return for answering questions, our beneficiaries are given HIEs. And with those HIEs, they can then redeem them. It was important for us to separate money from data. You can't be seen to be buying data. So in order for the beneficiaries earn HIEs for answering questions, and with those HIEs, they then have the ability to redeem them for practical things, for mobile phone credits, stuff that the NGO can sort of get on the ground. There's a fascinating study that was done in India, something like 10 years ago, where a guy had ran vaccination programs, and he had two clinics. One clinic offered free vaccine, bring your kids for free vaccinations. Another one had bring your kids for free vaccinations and a kilogram of rice. And so am I sharing still? Yeah. And the kilogram of rice program got a 6 times better response than just the free vaccines. So these simple, sorry, that was lentils, kilogram of lentils. What we found, it's so simple with these very basic and very affordable ways. I think they cost 40 cents per family to get 6 times of the impact in that case. So we've seen how these really small token gesture kind of incentives can really help development efforts and enthuse local communities. The United Nations Joint Inspection Unit of 2017 and the UN is always asking questions and trying to find ways to bring in new technology into their operations. I don't know who's trying to call me. Robust and adequate oversight functions and reports have the potential to enhance donor confidence. So this is where the beauty of blockchain comes in, the immutability functions and features of blockchain technology really make a dent here. What if on-the-go progress monitoring and reporting was quick and nimble? So our app is user-facing as long as a user has a smartphone, which in the developing world, smartphone penetration is growing at about 10% a year. In many parts of the world, it's surprisingly high, approaching Europe level standards. So it was the first question I asked, maybe the first hurdle I felt we had to deal with, but it's not a problem if people love their cell phones. And Havuta is enabling development actors to collect impact data with a lot more nimbility. Sorry, someone keeps honking at me. They can collect data as often as they want, report progress to donors more regularly, fine-tune programs more frequently. That's our blockchain architecture. That's how it looked in 2019, as you can see on the front. Hasn't changed. We just haven't updated our thing. So the NGOs, you can see, are the social impact fund actors will create a broadcast to their beneficiaries, who will answer surveys and respond and be rewarded for their engagement with HIEs. Those results go back to the NGO who gather the data, communicate the success or otherwise to their donors, ensuring a continued flow of funding for effective NGOs. Havuta is is the effective NGO's best friend. For ineffective NGOs, and there are those, Havuta is a nightmare because everything's recorded on the blockchain, on the Talos network. And that's when we get to this. We felt that as the sector is under increasing calls for transparency and accountability, that deploying blockchain was going to be absolutely crucial for them going forward. So, and this is being increasingly recognized, I think, by if you saw the UN Security Council, United Nations General Secretary's recent announcement of we need to bring blockchain into this sector now. Let's do it. As you all know, blockchain technology brings transparency to everything, and in our case, it's impact evaluations, helping effective organizations attract more funding. Fabienne and I are, I suppose, we lean toward the underdog a little bit, and there's a couple of projects that we're working with that we would actually like to offer services on a pro bono basis because A, they don't have it, and B, they deserve it. And I don't think that we think they're not getting the recognition and therefore the funding they deserve. So yeah, we it's about holding claims to account. We want to. We're quite serious about making sure, keeping the development sector accountable, not because we think they're all lying all the time, but because we think accountability is ultimately going to be, it will mean money is spent better in the end, and it will mean ultimately that the billion poorest people in the world will they're the ultimate beneficiaries of the work that we are trying to do. That's pretty much what I've got to share with you guys. So I'll stop the crowd share and come back to myself being myself. And here I am.
Well,
So
thank you, Paul, for sharing that. So now you have two apps, right? Tracer and Monitor.
No. That was always a little bit of a complication, a misunderstanding. We have one app that can be used in two different ways. Tracer, to use it, Tracer simply means there's a thing called tracer data, which is ex post data. That's data that's gathered after the completion of a program. For people who are using NGOs that are using it over a longer term period for a longer term program specifically, who might want, say, weekly updates of things. If you think about the health sector in development, for those kinds of applications, it's just a matter of frequency, how often they engage with the with Havuta, how often they send surveys to their beneficiaries. So we just call them different things. It's actually using the same thing in a different way.
Is there some special significance to the name Havuta? And what is there some story behind the name selection?
Fabienne and I spent about 2 months throwing names back and forth at each other, and every single one of them had a phi in it, like we wanted to, proofify and feedbackify, and we were getting nowhere with names. And it was I believe it was Fabienne's wife. He said, "Why don't you put your two surnames together and see how it looks?" And that's it.
Wow.
We got Havuta. Yeah.
But it's a very nice sound to it. It's
I just sounded right and everything. Okay, why not? We're not getting anywhere.
So the way I understand it, the NGOs, they do some work and they move on, and the beneficiaries receive this aid and they move on with their life, and nobody knows what was the impact of this service that the NGO provided. And that's where you come in, right? You help to have the impact data that this NGO did this work, and after some time, this is the result that we are seeing because of the work they did.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely right. And after some time is what everybody agrees the most important point at which we want to be knowing that the impact. We want to know that the programs are having a lasting impact. So we're getting impact data at times that are a lot more meaningful than is possible now.
So tell us about yourself, Paul. So what were you doing before Havuta, and how did you come to crypto space, and how did you come to Telos?
Yeah, well, I mean, I was a trader on stock markets, and I started sort of trading cryptocurrencies a number of years ago, and then I just fell into blockchain journalism, which is how I came across Telos. One of the very first articles written about Telos was mine. I think I referred to Douglas. I called Dan the pain in Dan Larimer's side or something like that, and that's when I came to learn about Telos. But so in terms of Havuta choosing blockchains, we had to we started from every single blockchain there was. We narrowed it down. It was a process of elimination, so we needed to lose proof of work because we need our image needs to be environmentally conscious. So proof of work was out, and we went through all that. Strong governance was really important. A squeaky clean image was really important, and the things needed to work in the environments that these are going to be deployed or are being deployed. In Africa, and sometimes you got intermittent internet access. It needs to be fast. So in the end, Telos was, it was the last. It was untainted. It's fast. It's proof of stake. It was the last blockchain standing, as I said at the time, and so it was actually not that difficult of a choice in the end.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much, Paul, and thank you for taking the time to be with us. I know it's very early for you in Seoul, but we very much appreciate your time today. Thank you very much.
I appreciate being here. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thanks,
everybody.